Public Library reading Spring is Here. And I say a few words about Carole. Carole Hebald was an actress for 12 years, both on and off Broadway. A former associate professor of English at the University of Kansas, she is the author of 3 Blind Mice, 2 short novels, and the play Martha. Her poems and short stories have appeared in numerous anthologies and literary reviews. She lives in New York City. And I have a quote from the famous, now deceased actress and author Uta Hagen, who spoke about Carole's book, in which you will read, "The Heart's Too Long Suppressed," is a most compelling journey to mental crises, haunting and powerful in its sweep of pain and fear. Here, finally, is a life-affirming memoir from the pen of a born artist. I couldn't put it down. So here's Carole.
Thank you, Dave. I have 2 books of poems for sale with the memoir over on that table, if you want to come through them later. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Welcome. Thank you for coming. One of the reasons I wrote The Heart Too Long Suppressed was to free myself from myself, to get myself out of my system so that I could write as feelingly about other people as I did about myself. My method was a further journey into the self, in which I described certain personal difficulties that grew apparent during my early adolescence and which were diagnosed by medical professionals as, quote, mental illness. I traced the development of these difficulties in the body of the book. In the excerpt I'll read from now, I sketch the circumstances under which I broke free from those difficulties. In the summer of 1978, while accompanying my mother and her 3rd husband on a 10-week pleasure cruise to Leningrad, I threw overboard the following medications: the psychotropic tranquilizers Haldol and Thorazine, and the antidepressants imipramine daytime and tafranil PM. A psychiatric patient in and out of hospitals for 30 years, I've been on massive doses of medication for 20. I was 44. The previous fall, I began my job as assistant professor of English and creative writing at the University of Kansas at Lawrence. It had become my habit as a visiting lecturer to register upon arriving in town at the nearest medical facility with a note from my former therapist indicating the pills I was taking. It was up to me to find a doctor who'd consent to rewrite my prescriptions and to take me on as a patient. Given my medical history, not everyone would. The nearest facility to Lawrence was the renowned Memoir clinic in Topeka, where I was promptly scheduled for a morning-long battery of psychological tests. One of the reasons I'd accepted the job in Kansas was that at Memoir's I hoped to find a lasting cure for whatever it was that ailed me. The administrative psychologist, Dr. Sheila Scholar, summoned me from the waiting area at 8:30 with a brief apology for having to ask me, as a mere formality, some rather stupid routine questions. "Who is the President of the United States?" she began. I opened my mouth to speak. Carter's name escaped my mind. I froze, then laughed, or tried to, as I explained that I had just arrived in this blistering August heat from the MacDowell Artist Colony in New Hampshire, where I'd been working round the clock on a novel that was beginning finally to take shape. I laughed again. Just one more moment and I'd remember. Dr. Scholar suggested we get on with the Rorschach and word association tests. I answered carefully, thoroughly. Too thoroughly, perhaps, to compensate for my memory lapse, because twice she admonished sharply, "Please, just say what you see." By lunchtime, we had finished. "I'll be straight with you," she said. "You seem extremely disorganized." "I'm tired. I think it's more than that." Look, I don't think you can give a coherent lecture. I'm recommending your hospitalization. What? For what? For what? Dr. Scholar, I'm starting a new job next week. Teaching so I support myself. Please, I've just been overworking. I can rest at home. No, I don't think so, she said. Then, how am I supposed to pay a hospital bill without the medical insurance the job provides? She assured me that something could be worked out. You really think I need a lump in my throat? Stop me. I don't know what to do first, I said finally, to go home and pack or telephone my chairman immediately. The tears welled up. Appeased, she seemed at once kinder. Look, you have my opinion, she said sensibly. I'll pass it on to Dr. Sampson, the psychiatrist to whom I've been assigned. You're seeing him tomorrow. I nodded. Then just do nothing until tomorrow. If he agrees with me, we'll take it from there. It was lunchtime. Unable to drive, I'd need a cab to the Lawrence bus. With a couple of hours' wait, I asked her where I could get a bite to eat. Well, they're eating downstairs right now, she said. I'll arrange for you to join them as a visitor. I stood in line with the inpatients, pleasant-looking, mostly young, none recognizably ill. But few mental patients at the elite retreats are. It struck me that no one bothered to ask if I was new. There were no locked doors. I was visiting today, that's all. But in a day or two, I'd be in again. I felt discouraged and so horribly tired that were it not for my teaching contract and the probability of a ruined career, which Dr. Scholar dismissed so very lightly, your health comes first, I'd have taken her advice without question. Horribly tired, did I say? Then why suddenly on that lunch cue did my heart begin to pound, my muscles to freeze? My arms grew stiff. One began lifting of its own accord when I turned around, mounted the stairs, and ran far, far down the road as fast as I could until I reached the bus stop. I sat down to rest. Across the street was an empty payphone. I had with me the number of a fellow artist in whom I'd confided at McDowell, a prominent critic and novelist. She had attended an after-dinner reading I'd given from my novella Asylum about a mental patient's struggle for self-possession. When my friend asked its source, I answered personal experience. She then read the complete novella and claimed to be deeply moved by it. I was honored. We swam together, ate together, and talked intimately. I told her because she asked that aside from a brief year of marriage, I'd lived my adult life alone, and that I was on heavy medication because I was troubled by visions of Jesus. In fact, the previous year when I taught at University of Wisconsin, my visions were followed by a searing pain in one eye and temporary blindness. But why did I admit this to a stranger? Because I was in desperate need of a friend, and in such states of desperation, we trust whomever we need. Half expecting to be betrayed, we're sometimes wonderfully surprised. Before the onset of my blindness, I had shared my terror of these visions with my former dean at Utica College, a trained psychologist who advised me wisely not to be afraid, that they might pretend something positive. It occurred to me then that it was my fear of insanity, and not the visions themselves, that had caused my blindness and pain. But I must have frightened my friend at McDowell, whose interest in me soon after cooled. I was really a bit heartbroken, but I was used to it. Another deposit for the memory bank, I thought. Or as Emerson more aptly put it, pearls and rubies to his discourse. Once I'd fallen in love with someone whose best friend told me confidentially, of course, he doesn't want anyone that sick. My friend picked up the phone with a gracious hello. I got quickly to the point about my recommended hospitalization, so I'll probably be writing to you from Topeka, not Lawrence, I said. I'm really sorry to lay this on you. "You're not laying anything on me," she replied, "because there's nothing I can do." It was then I decided to fight. I knew that the next day my psychiatrist, Dr. Sampson, hearing the customary factual rundown of my life, would be on the lookout for disorganized thinking. So with nothing to do that night, I prepared my life history. Never deviating from facts, I would pause at strategic places and toss in a few insights into the probable causes of my illness. I began with the death of my father when I was 4, followed by my inability to listen in school or to read until I was 9. "Where were you?" asked the doctor next day. "I can't say for sure. Probably in some unconscious fantasy of heaven, or at least knocking at the gate. I do remember thinking, 'Our Father who art in heaven' was my father in particular, and you were a special child." "Well, I like to think so," I answered modestly. Dr. Sampson smiled. I had passed, I assumed splendidly, since he disagreed with Dr. Scholar's recommendation and backed my decision to go home and prepare my classes. I traveled to Topeka weekly to see him, took my medications faithfully, and began teaching at the University of Kansas. At the end of the academic year, I received a note from my chairman. My student evaluations for fall and spring semesters had been outstanding. If I wanted to be considered for early promotion and tenure, he'd be happy to support me. Dr. Sampson was delighted by my chairman's encouragement. "We're doing very well," he beamed. All year, my feelings of loneliness had been acute. I'd call him, not often, but from time to time. "Get a dog," he told me. "There's nothing the matter with loving a dog." "Can I call you again?" I asked him. "Well, what do you want me to tell you? To get a cat?" But what did I expect? I had wanted above all to write. If romantic relationships weren't possible for me, close friendships were. And if there was no one yet within shouting distance, I'd nourish myself on books and music. I worked beyond endurance. Nothing was happening. I was harping on the same old subjects. Thoughts spun on the wheels of thought. I clutched at possibilities, and the train ground down to a halt. My mind was in a groove. Shortly before summer recess, when I agreed to join my parents on their cruise, I asked Dr. Sampson if he thought I'd ever be well enough to function without therapy and medication. He answered that I'd probably have to continue the former indefinitely, but the pills would be necessary for the rest of my life. I'd been ready to give up, to settle. I even took a perverse pride each time the dosage was increased in how well I still could function. I was almost never absent from class. My hospitalizations occurred between semesters and in holidays. I was remarkably well controlled, really something of a wonderkind. But that year things had changed. Medications for the rest of my life, I echoed. "You're doing very well," he insisted. For a sick person? He didn't respond. "Tell me, do those pills inhibit the imagination?" "They inhibit delusional thinking," he explained, "which is seated in the imagination." "No, doctor, that's my stock in trade," I yelled. "Just be grateful we have them, huh? You forgetting the night terrors, the hallucinations?" he asked. "You're absolutely certain they are hallucinations?" "There's no doubt in my mind." We ended the session. Next day, I called his secretary to cancel all future appointments. 2 weeks later, on the high seas, I tossed my medications overboard. I've not taken a pill or seen a therapist since. Okay, I should explain right at this point that psychologist Dr. Scholar's perception at the beginning of the year that I couldn't give a coherent lecture together with the recommended hospitalization were not the only things that rankled. What disturbed me especially was that since my early 20s, no doctor had ever consented to treat me in or out of hospital without the medications. And now, in light of those student evaluations, I had to know what else was inside me, what other thoughts, feelings, and possible gifts those pills were blunting. So I jump now to a section toward the end of the book, just after I've thrown the pills overboard, in which I find out. How did it feel at first? Starving people who speak of a hunger beyond words would know. I remember transports from fierce anguish to quick, sharp ecstasies. Of my prayers, spoken or written, one remains in my mind, that my labor contained the seeds of its own fruit for the nourishment of souls. Visions were given me that let me know where I'd been since the day of my father's death. All things cloudy seemed suddenly luminous and precise. I dreamed of entering symphonies, entering shrines. I'd start an artistic revolution in the name of science, its weapons, words, and music. I would learn the grammar of music, master the mathematics of the dance. And all the while aboard ship, Mother kept complaining, "You're not mean. Don't you want to make your way?" popped in her husband, Charles. Back at school that fall, I knew I must be scrupulously careful with feelings and reactions when others were around. The need to speak, to communicate, became so exquisitely painful, I felt it stop up by the force of the impulse itself, and the realization washed over me like an inner tidal wave that I'd been crippled by an excess of need. Without the safety lid of medication, my rage swelled hand in hand with joy, the fierce joy of knowing I'd been right from the start. I had needed a place to scream before I could reason out that need with a doctor. My classes continued to thrive. In a heightened state of consciousness, I could pinpoint as never before problems in student manuscripts. I telephoned people from my past. When Martha, a former inpatient and friend, remarked that I was speaking very quickly, "Because I'm thinking quickly," I said. "Are you thinking too quickly?" she asked. "Too quickly for whom?" I burst back. "We were brainwashed, don't you get it?" Next I tried an actress I hadn't spoken to for 20 years. I'd have called sooner, I began, but I forgot your last husband's name. I mean, your husband's last name. She roared, of course, but then a few minutes later, "Carole, are you all right?" The question came from others. I had to speak to someone who knew me. Who but the one doctor who had helped me? Why hadn't I called him right away? After I told him what I'd done, "Dr. Finkelstein, could you tell me, please, simply and clearly, what was wrong?" "You're too intense. Look, I don't understand that. Look, you threaten people, Carole, and they want to attack you or run away, whichever. But students are breaking their necks to get into my classes. They know those will end soon, but they enjoy being there at the time. They know it's only for a little while. Dr. Finkelstein, I don't know what you're saying to me. Talk to me, please, talk to me. Because we never really talked, you know, not about this. You just sat there and allowed me to love you and told me there was no need to feel anxious about it. Now I'm asking you why it was necessary to pay you for that privilege. Carole, you're too intense. Please explain yourself. Things have to be clear, absolutely clear right now. You're not letting me talk. I'm sorry. Well, in certain schizophrenic disorders, no goddammit, speak English, not psychoanalyse. You know, you people really ought to read more. Don't you know when needs get this big, you have to get lost in the melody sometimes? But I mean Dr. Shakespeare knew more than Freud. He even said it better. You're still thinking logically, he said quietly. Well, so are you. You're just not making yourself clear. Say something else. You want it straight? Absolutely straight. Your needs are frightening. Just what am I supposed to do with that piece of information, Dr. Finkelstein? Just sit here? Carole, you asked me for it. A jeweled silence. Are you all right? Did you have to ask me that? Speak again. Okay, here we go. Too intense. I went to a performance the other night of Long Day's Journey. Carole, it was so powerful, so lyrical, so absolutely heartrending. Well, I walked out exhausted. You walked out exhausted? Yes. Dr. Finkelstein, don't break my heart. Thank you. I want to open the floor for questions and maybe talk for a few minutes about this if you want to. Ask whatever you like and I'll answer whatever I like.
The visions and the hallucinations that gradually subside, or how did that work out?
I don't know that they subsided completely, but I know that they don't. So, no. David?
Do you consider any of this kind of medical malpractice?
Not in this, certainly not with the people I mentioned here. There were people who did malpractice, and that's in the book itself, and I chose not to read those. No, the people who wanted to help me here were sincerely trying to help, and I think they were misguided. What got me so angry was just how naive the people were. Not Dr. Finkelstein. Dr. Finkelstein was the one doctor who helped me. So I was on the fence about reading what he did that was different from everybody else, and whether anybody would care to listen to another 5 minutes or not, perhaps not right away. You tell me if you do. But I'm not against involuntary hospitalization or any of that. I mean, if I were not involuntarily hospitalized, I wouldn't be here to complain about it, about the treatment in the hospital itself. So I'm not feeling that way or thinking that way. And I think the doctor, there was one doctor who was extraordinarily cruel, but he was not in there. Anything else? Yes, Peter.
Were you satisfied with the fact that you stood up to Dr. Finkelstein?
I was ashamed of myself at the time because I worshipped him so much, but he was very proud of me. My friend Laurie, the one who recommended him, told me so. He was very proud. He was one of those rare doctors from the Bronx, trained. He hated New York. He wanted to go somewhere he was needed, a real doctor. And there was a connection almost immediately. Almost immediately. Yes.
The first doctor appointment I got in psychologist, it was frightening for me. She was so determined for me to do her job and start your job, but she didn't give you the benefit of the doubt.
She didn't believe me that I was as tired as I was. We do forget our own telephone numbers, and we do forget things like that. And under a great deal of pressure.
It makes you realize how many people are put on these pills and they really shouldn't. There's so many. When I got sick recently with my back, and they gave me a drug. I took it for 3 days. I had no idea who I was. I got rid of it. I said, this is ridiculous. When I told the doctor, he said, are you still taking the drug? I said, well, why would I want to do that? I didn't even know my name. It didn't help my back. And then I found out if you stay with it for 30 days, you are literally hooked on these drugs.
Well, he should have told you that.
There's so many of them are incompetent.
Well, the medication, the pharmaceutical companies, it's big business. We all know that. That doesn't mean that pills aren't necessary sometimes. But for me, there was no other answer but to throw them all away at once, because I had tried innumerable times, a little bit, and then there was something maybe a little bit comforting in getting up second unit. The doctor was there to help me. There was that, and I knew it was going on. I simply had to do this on my own without a doctor. And I was very glad, although the first year and a half was hell, you can well imagine. But I'm very glad I did it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Once you discarded all of the medication, because you've been on this medication now for years, and all of a sudden, it's gone. So there's mental, emotional, physical, everything to deal with. But is there one person that knows that you have thrown overboard all of your medication and that they're there in a sense to help you? Or did you have somebody that might be there?
No, it was all
Or
on
what?
But when I told Dr. Finkelstein and on the telephone from Waterloo, Iowa, he signaled his approval in so many words. I knew that if I really needed to talk to him, I would call him, but I didn't need it. I wanted to do this on my own. I wanted to get right to work instead and write the book, and I couldn't. If any of you were interested in the difficulties in writing a book like this,
What is the transition from all this medication and then moving to a book? Did the book actually save you?
I couldn't write it, that's the point.
But after the medication and you wanted to get right into your writing?
But that was a mistake. I was too upset. Just what you're saying, I was going out. That's in the book, by the way, so I needn't go over it here.
Okay.
But it's all spelled out. The thing is, the person who wrote the introduction, the foreword, Dr. Sauce, I asked him immediately, would he write the foreword, and he said yes. And then 16 years passed, during which I wrote novellas and poems and other things. And then I read something, a book of his called Cruel Compassion, about mental cruelty to little children, and I had to write it. And I wrote it within 11 months, but I asked him, would you still write the foreword? And he said, yes, but you better hurry up, because I might not last another 16 years. And he did. He died just last year. Yes, he did.
So these were the very early days of psychotropic drugs that it's called?
No, the early days in this country, I think, were in the 50s. They're already...
So this was when? When was this?
What I'm talking about now, in the 1970s, in the late 70s.
But you said you've been on them for 20 years.
I've been on them for 20 years, since the 50s. Thorazine and alcohol.
And those are strong.
Very, very strong. Psychosis for psychotic people. You walk around like a zombie.
So you were misdiagnosed?
I think so, but I don't know. That I don't know enough.
You can't say that? You were misdiagnosed?
Probably.
They're still using alcohol, the schizophrenia.
I can't hear you more.
No, they're still using the alcohol.
Oh, I know.
It's very, very powerful.
I know. I used it in Poland on political dissidents in Russia and in Poland. It just shuts you up.
Do you think that's what they were trying to do?
Yes.
So that sounds to me like medical malpractice.
I truly believe that an angel was looking over your shoulder, because your gift just has to be heard. You're writing.
Yeah, but on the other hand, no doctor ever failed to remind me that without my gifts I'd be very badly off. And I wondered, did that mean that schizophrenics without talent are nothing more than the sum of their symptoms? That was something that made me write the book. When I was in hospital, to get away from my own misery, I focused on other people, and I was so moved by what I saw, and so disgusted by how some of the people were treated. It was that was the impetus suddenly. I was learning slowly, on my own, to look outward.